Coupland here, and just want to reach out and talk about the housing market that we have happening right now, and a trend that I'm seeing with investors selling their investment properties to cash in on these increased market values that we're seeing. I'm not 100% convinced that it is always the best decision to make, so I kind of wanted to look here at some of the cons and maybe a different way of thinking about it and getting creative about your real estate investing instead of just going to sell in order to capitalize on this market. What I'm seeing is more often it is single family homes, condos, small rental properties, duplexes, things like that. And the values have increased considerably. I just got a letter in the mail yesterday saying that the houses in my area have increased by 30% over the last year, which means that it's always a great time to own real estate. But in particular right now, the returns on our real estate just for having it are pretty significant. And I can see where it might entice a lot of people to cash in and sell their investment property. There are other options, though, where you can stay invested in real estate and still benefit from the increase in value. First way definitely is to, instead of selling, perhaps you can refinance and pull out some of those funds to use for whatever it is that you're wanting to use. If it's a personal thing, I suggest using minimal amounts for personal and looking at other opportunities for investment. In particular, if you are selling, what sort of a return are you going to get in your future investment? Are you going to sell and are you looking to go and buy another single family home? Well, guess what? The prices have gone up for those as well. So it may be a little bit more difficult to get back into an investment property once the market is up. If you are cashing in and selling because you're going to upgrade and you're going to basically trade your houses to hotels, definitely support that, provided that the return is there and you're going to surpass the return that you were receiving on your initial property. We did just sell a duplex actually that's been in our portfolio for about 14 years. I very rarely sell anything that's not a planned flip. This property was still giving us a fairly decent return on our equity, but we are purchasing an 11-plex, we've already purchased it, but we have this 11-plex that we're doing a full renovation on, that is actually going to give us a better return, and that's where our dollars should be. So another thing I wanted to kind of mention, and looking at things creatively, one of the reasons why I can see that single family homeowners and condo owners, small rental property owners may be selling is because their rents are below market. And they want to not only cash in on the extra equity that they have, but also they want to be able to increase the income that they're receiving from their properties. And when you have an under market rent, right now, the government has put a freeze on any sort of increases. It is a real challenge when you look at how significantly the rental values have increased. They have single family home rentals, all of them right across the board, right from bachelors all the way up, have had a substantial increase in rental values. And when we're not able to get those on our existing properties, it is a bit of a challenge. And I can see where people are looking to sell in order to be able to start a new tenancy in a new property at a higher rent. I do suggest that there are other ways to look at it. I did receive a call from a tenant, talked to her yesterday, and currently she's paying $1,500 a month in the house that she's living in currently, and applied for a property that we have that's listed for $2,300 a month. And it was already rented, but she said my landlord wants to sell because of the market where it's at. They need to sell, and I have to move. And I just thought about it, and I said to her, well, if you can afford to pay $2,300 a month for this property, maybe if you go and offer that $2,300 to your existing landlord, perhaps they'll think twice about selling because their income on that property is going to be greater. And so she was going to do that because she didn't want to move, liked the house, but at $1,500 a month rent, that's an extra $800 in market value that owner is losing a month. I can see where that owner may want to sell. So I'm going to flip this back to the owners as well. if you not only want to cash out on the equity you've created in your property by holding it, I suggest it, but you also want to increase the income generated and your rents are at below market, I suggest maybe you have a conversation with your tenants prior to listing it for sale. Just be open and honest and say, hey, listen, I'm looking at putting this place up for sale because, be honest and say my return isn't what it could be if I had a different property that was at market rent. And maybe you can come to some sort of arrangement where they are willing to pay closer to market rent. Because guess what? When they leave your property and they go and find somewhere else to go, they're going to have to pay that market rent. So they may actually prefer to stay in place and pay that to you instead of going through the whole hassle of having to move. And that's a conversation that you could have. Legally, we can't increase their rent, such as that, but they can agree to terminate their tenancy. And I believe that they can also agree to pay more as well. So just a couple of ideas on how to maybe capitalize a little bit more on properties that you already own instead of selling, refinancing, negotiating with your tenants, and just make sure to keep your investment focused and your goals in mind, and make sure that any decisions that you make are in line with your long-term goals as well.